In this video, I'm going to show you the 4 worst mistakes everyone makes for fat loss, how my client Elise has not only lost 30 pounds by correcting these mistakes, but how the biggest mistake literally almost took her life, so please take this seriously and do not make these mistakes. So first things first, I'm not here to say that cardio is bad, that you shouldn't do it. It's great for your cardiovascular health, for your heart and lungs, for work capacity in the gym. Plenty of research has shown that it helps with all-cause mortality, so there's a lot of great things about it. However, more isn't necessarily better, and that's the very first mistake you may be making. Just because something's good for you doesn't mean a crap load of it is really good for you, and this goes for pretty much anything with regards to health and fitness. You have to understand you can't just pound your body into submission. Your body has to be able to recover for you to be able to see progress. Don't believe me? Well, I'm going to tell you a story about my client Elise and talk about how she started doing less cardio and got way better results, and how by doing too much cardio, there was literally concerns for her life. So Elise came to me at the beginning of the year and I got her set up with a plan. It was nothing too crazy, just 60 minutes total cardio for the week, only doing about 40,000 steps a day. However, we got a handful of weeks into things and she wasn't seeing the best results, but the thing that concerned me is she sent me an email in her check-in saying that she was just feeling completely wiped out, could barely function. She ended up admitting in a check-in that she was doing way more than I was prescribing for her. It just wasn't being reported. She was doing an hour and 20 minutes of walking every single day on the treadmill. She was doing 20 minutes of stationary bike morning and evening. And during her 5 lifting sessions, she was setting the treadmill on the highest setting and doing that every 4 minutes during her lifting sessions. And she was averaging well over 20,000 steps per week. So we had to talk about being honest and making sure you're following the plan and not overdoing it. I backed her off. I still stuck with 3 hours total of cardio for the week. I did keep her calories the same at this point, did introduce 2 refeed days, and she actually started seeing some decent progress. She was losing around 1 pound a week till her knee eventually gave out on her because, again, she was doing way too much outside of the gym. So I ended up taking this time and saying, okay, I can't do any cardio for a little bit. Let's go ahead and take a diet break. Then when we got back into it, this is when things got really scary. And keep in mind, I didn't know any of this was going on. So I'm telling you, if you have a coach, keep your coach in the know. They have to know what's going on. But she ended up in the ER twice with basically heart attack symptoms. She couldn't sleep. She was waking up in the middle of the night just drenched in sweat, heart was racing, breathing problems, and she just was like, I'm just doing everything I can to not pass out all the time. So she ended up in the ER the first time, and they asked her if she was under stress, and her husband has had 9 different strokes and a lot of health problems, so definitely under a lot of stress. So they just said, well, it was probably stress-induced, kind of like an anxiety attack, and basically sent her home. But she ended up back in the ER having chest pains, blood pressure and heart rate through the roof. But with all this, the doctors ordered, okay, no working out until we get things figured out a little bit more. At this point, this was in April. We had been about 17 weeks into things, and sure, she lost about 10 pounds, but at what price? But here's the crazy part. So she did the 4 weeks. We just kind of focused on being pretty steady. She was then able to start training again, and it was another 6 weeks before she could reintroduce cardio. I ended up increasing her calories by 300. Once she was able to do cardio after 10 weeks, we only did 60 minutes for the entire week. Her steps were down to 10,000 per day. And what ended up happening, she just started losing like 1 pound a week every single week like clockwork, because the body is finally able to recover and she feels a billion times better, and her health markers are all in a good place now. She's just way better off. More is not always better. Now, the second mistake you may be making is relying way too much on HIIT. Again, I'm not saying that HIIT is bad, that you shouldn't do it, but it does come with some drawbacks, like it's hard to recover from. And I don't want to get into a big thing about training versus cardio in this video. I've done tons of videos on this, but strength training is way more beneficial for fat loss than cardio is. So your training should be your priority. And if you're training and doing lots of HIIT cardio and you're in a calorie deficit, it's a lot on the body. And because you're so exhausted from this high intensity exercise, you end up compensating those calories by moving less throughout the other portions of your day, and you just end up kind of trading calories burned. Not only that, but if you're exhausted from your HIIT, it's going to mess with your training. So while I understand the appeal, because while I typically recommend lower intensity forms of cardio, especially just regular walking, it is much more time consuming, and I'm sure you're a busy person. So if you think I can just knock out some HIIT cardio in 20 minutes versus going for a 40 to maybe hour-long walk, there's an appeal there, but not at the sacrifice of running your body into the ground. Plus, if you hate HIIT cardio, but you're forcing yourself to do it, you're not going to sustain it. And if you can't sustain it, you're not going to sustain any results you get from it anyways. So you need to focus on doing things you enjoy more and not stuff you hate just because you think it's beneficial, which brings me right into the third mistake you might be making, and that's forcing yourself to do fasted cardio because you heard it's better for fat loss. Now, I'm not necessarily saying fasted cardio is bad or that you can't do it. And yes, there is research that's shown you burn more fat during fasted cardio cardio than you do fed cardio. However, when research has looked at a 24-hour picture, even though you burn more fat during the exercise, you then burn less fat throughout the rest of your day, and the net between fed and fasted cardio is completely the same. As long as your nutritional intake is the same and your activity levels are the same, it's not going to matter. So if you like fasted cardio, great, but if you hate it, again, don't force yourself to do something you hate, especially when it's not any more beneficial. Now, another thing you need to consider here is the metabolic adaptations that come with doing more cardio. As you increase your cardio, you're going to expend more calories, which helps put you into a calorie deficit. However, with cardio, as you do more, eventually your body gets used to this. You are now going to burn less calories from the exercise you're doing, which means in order to continue to see results, you have to keep doing more and more cardio. Because what happens if you increase your cardio like crazy right off the bat, what happens when you stop losing weight because your body's now adapted to this? Now, if you're already doing an hour of cardio every single day, where are you going to go from that? Were you going to just run marathons every single day? It's not realistic. So you want to do as little cardio as possible while seeing appropriate results. Be no more than about 1% of your weight on average per week. So you don't want to rush this process and leave room to make increases to your cardio so you can get through the plateaus and keep the fat loss going. But with that being said, how much cardio should you be doing? I've already covered this topic, so make sure you check out this top video up here. And I'll walk you through how to know how much to do and how to make adjustments. Otherwise, I think you'll like this bottom video instead. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in one of those other videos.